Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 16th session of Human Mode Conversations. This is the beginning of our second season, and I'm extremely excited to have our dear guest, Afsaneh Fazly, with us. She's an AI scientist, founder, startup advisor, and an extremely seasoned leader. Afsaneh, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Nogol. Thanks for the kind introduction and happy to be
Awesome.
here.
So, Afsana, as we already discussed, I believe that there is an identity crisis in leadership, especially among younger leaders. They're dealing with a reality that it's quite unprecedented with all the changes happening, and it looks like they don't have necessarily the right mindset and knowledge and tools to lead effectively. So that's why in this season, I would love to have really open and honest conversations around the reality of leadership, the challenges we're facing, some of the good practices, what's the future going to look like, with the hope that it's going to give our younger leaders, who are our audience and our community, some insights, some mindset shift, not only to lead effectively now, but also to help them get ready for the future. So I would love to start a conversation. You are a leader and you had different positions as a founder, as executive leader in different organizations. What is the reality of leadership, like day to day? Like, what are we going through?
Yeah, that's a very good question, honestly. And I think leadership is really how your character and your mindset manifests in your daily
Mhm.
actions. So it's really not necessarily tied to your workplace. Although a lot of the time when we talk about leadership, we're talking about leadership in the workplace. But really, it's about everyday actions. And a couple of things that I would point out about leadership, daily actions in leadership is how do you take ownership, especially when things go wrong? So we talk a lot about taking ownership and being accountable, but it's absolutely important to own your actions and your decisions when things go wrong, which is not easy.
Not at all.
Also about making decisions. It's not about being in the power or having the authority to make decisions, but it's about making decisions, especially when that decision is unpopular, which is again extremely hard. And at the end of the day, it's about truly treating people with respect, not faking it, but really absolutely treating everybody with respect, being honest with yourself, with others, and staying humble.
Wow.
So I would, if I want to sum
Yes,
it up,
please.
I would say true leadership is a quality that shows up in everything you
Mhm.
do. It's not necessarily tied to the workplace functions. So everything you do at home as a parent, as a spouse, everything you do at work, of course, and everything that you do in your society and in your community.
And Afsana, it's
So I
very
think that's,
interesting because everything that you're sharing around like being humble, not around authority, like taking ownership, like these are not what we grew up with when we were reading
yes.
about leadership, when leadership was being taught, like the older generation of leaders, like when that this shift happened. Like this is very different.
Yeah, and that's again, that's a really, really good question to follow up because I've also been listening to
Mhm.
podcasts a lot, just sort of because again, I came up with, I was asked this question several times. What is your leadership
Mhm.
style? And then I actually had to think about it. And I thought, I don't really know what is my leadership style. So then, I sort of tried to find out and I started listening to podcasts. And even, it's not even when we were growing up, even now, I hear a lot about what are some of the traits or observed behaviors of leaders, which again is valuable and is important because at the end of the day, you cannot see what is
Exactly.
inside a
It's what it
person, but you
shows
can
up.
only see
Yes.
their
It's how we show
behavior.
up. Yes.
But yeah, exactly. But sometimes there's a little bit too much focus on these as just tactics. Okay, how to learn to have executive presence. I mean, you have executive presence when you are confident, when you are a true leader. You cannot fake it. At least that's what I think. Or, okay, leaders are outcome oriented. You inspire your team, but you also are an executive and you are focused on delivery and results. And of course, all of that is important at the end of the day. But again, I would say if you focus too much on these performative behavior, then we're ignoring the fact that leadership is mostly intuitive and experiential. So again, I go back to the question that I was asked a few times: what is your leadership style? And I could not define it. And I don't know if this is a bug or this is because, or another question I really liked. Somebody asked me, how do you know when your team is actually making progress? And I really thought you just know.
Intuitive.
And sometimes it's hard to measure it. Sometimes it's hard to really list a bunch of items that you look for. But so again, going back, this leadership is mostly intuitive and experiential. Again, I don't want to say there's no value in sort of looking for these behaviors, but we have to always tie it to the why this particular behavior is important. And I see, again, like at the same time, I actually have been working with some really great coaches. And it was interesting because I saw their approach was very different, and they were seeing leadership more as the depth of the person behind these behaviors, and not just really the behaviors themselves. So I do see that sort of gradual recognition that leadership is less about just the techniques or the style, and more about the person, the mindset, and the character behind these behaviors.
And you are like you have worked with different, like in different industries. Obviously, you're like a scientist. You work majority of time, I would say, in the STEM world. Like, I think what you have evolved as a leader was quite somehow different from the typical leadership practices. What was your experience like? And what is your reality today?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I was actually thinking, leadership is not something like, when you're a child, you say, oh, I grew up and I want to be a leader. I think sometimes you just have it in you. And it's again about like just how much you care. When you are given a task, are you just going to follow and do that perfectly, which is, again, there's a lot of value in doing that, or are you going to ask questions, and are you going to go above and beyond, and are you going to make sure that this gets done even if you have to do 10 other things and you're only asked to do this one thing? And I think, again, like, it's just like, at least for me, I was always naturally the second one. I didn't even realize it. And I realized it when I was in a position, and then my manager at the time would just give me more tasks and recognize that, okay, this person is caring about things that they're not necessarily their type. They can just ignore it. They don't have to do anything about it. But you really care about everybody. You care about the things being done. You care about creating an environment where everybody is enjoying what they're doing. It's not just about getting things done. It's about enjoying while you're solving those. I don't know if you have
This is
answered
actually
that question,
exactly
your
that. But
question,
I have a follow-up question. This is extremely key, and this is one of the areas that we talk a lot about when we talk about leadership. But one of the challenges that always come up is that we don't have time. Delivering work is non-negotiable. Creating an environment where people can enjoy work it becomes then negotiable. So how can we manage these? Like, how can we somehow make sure that, okay, I'm having this holistic approach to leadership, but I'm also performing and delivering and giving the results that I'm expected to do? Because this is exactly that challenge that I'm hearing from leaders all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I think you cannot do it alone. And I have experienced that. You can do it when you have
Got it.
support from the others. And I think I have been truly fortunate that in at least the past 10 plus years, most of the time, I've been working with people who have actually really, really deeply cared about the same things that I cared about. So maybe I didn't even sense that. I just assumed it was the case. And then when I saw that it's not necessarily true in every organization and in every team, and not every leader necessarily believes in those things. Exactly, as you said, some leaders really, really, truly believe that it's just about getting things done, and the rest is not, as you said, it's negotiable. And again, I would challenge that, but I don't want to go there. I want to focus on the positive, which is, yes, I've had amazing like managers and people, mentors who have really supported those kinds of. That's why when you do it, they acknowledge it, they see it, they give you space to do more of it.
That's extremely
so it is about doing it together.
I love that, because we also talk a lot about collective, like that, like, and it's interesting that you mention it, because I see that there is now it's an era that like leaders, so many times they feel alone because of everything that they're going through. So thank you so much for like bringing that up. I want to now just go into discussing, like, we just somehow mapped the reality. This is what we're dealing with. This is probably like what we need to move towards, to a more holistic approach to leadership, more human-centered. What is a challenge for you as a leader right now that like you're dealing with? Because this is also another place for us to somehow gather, like, what are the challenges that leaders are searching for, are dealing with, and are facing with every day?
Yeah. I can talk about AI and technology in general, but I actually think this is probably true in many other areas of leadership. I think the gap between deep expertise and decision authority is becoming a big issue. It's always probably been an issue, but because of the acceleration of technology, which is not only impacting technology and AI, but everything else, we see this gap becoming even more.
Can you elaborate a bit on it?
Because so basically the idea is, you do see a lot of the time people who are in policymakers, in organizations, making key decisions, are the people who are not necessarily the expert. So that is becoming a problem. And a lot of the times this, I think, is tied to the fact that because of the acceleration of technology and AI right now, it's impossible for all of us to suddenly become AI experts.
Exactly. I mean, you've been in this.
So it's
you've
hard
been in
for
this
us.
world for like 20 years, and you're an AI scientist, but this is not the reality of many people out there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then this is causing a lot of other leaders to suddenly not be able to judge whose judgment they can trust, what is hype, what is noise, what is reality. So then, and then you see a lot of like these sort of, messages about, if you don't do AI and it's not even clear what exactly it means, then you're going to be doomed. And so then you really don't know, is this a serious issue? Do I need to take it seriously? Is this just noise? And again, like as a leader and as just some expert, you have your day job to do as well. So it's becoming extremely difficult. And then I think as part of this also, the same old challenge we've always had is becoming even more pronounced, which is suddenly visibility and confidence outweigh real knowledge, which again could be even dangerous. So I would say this is a real gap.
And for you as an AI scientist, there are so many leaders listening to us, and this is their question. Do I have to go after this? Do I really become like AI fluent? Do I have to, improve my literacy in AI and technology, even though this is not necessarily my department? I'm in marketing, I'm in design, I'm in people management. Like, how would you answer that?
That's a tough question to answer. And I want to make a confession. Even as a person who has been in AI for more than 25 years, I started when AI was really honestly just toys that we played with in school and university, because you couldn't do anything real with it. It was just a great vision, an amazing idea. And even I and all of us had to reinvent ourselves and learn new techniques every couple of years. Like we moved from rule-based to statistical approaches to then like deep learning and then now Gen AI. And honestly, I've heard this from some of my fellow scientists and even academics who are really experts in their own fields and have been in the field for like 30 something years, that it's almost impossible to keep up with the speed of changes. So first of all, this is everybody's problem. That might at least put some people at ease. Secondly, yeah, of course, there is a lot of noise. And I would say just one thing is stay grounded in your expertise, because you have built this expertise, whether you're in marketing or sales or something, you're like even non-technology. You've built this expertise over many years, and AI is not suddenly going to replace you and your version of the expertise and your humanity, basically, right? But these are great tools, and they're still changing. There's still a lot of uncertainty. So also don't be afraid of learning them.
Got it. That openness.
Because when you learn them, yeah, I mean, we all have to do that. Yes, it's hard. You have to set aside. It's like when email came, we all had to learn to use email or different messaging apps. Or these could be good resources for you. So use them as resources. Use them as tools. Or even if you decide not to use them, at least you've tried and you know why you
that this is the path to go. But Afsaneh, this is exactly the challenge that I see with many leaders when it comes to technology and change in general. When we're talking about performance, we know the territory. We know what we need to do. We need to do it right.
Yeah.
When we're talking about change, AI, transformation, any kind, it's a very different territory. It's unknown. You're somehow paving a new path. However, the expectations from leaders is usually the same expectations that we have from performance. You have to be fast. You have to give me results.
Yes.
You are being rewarded for delivery. But from what I'm hearing from you, it's around experimentation. It's around learning. It's around upskilling.
Yes.
How can we, this is a big challenge that I'm hearing from leaders and teams. Do you have any insights to share with the leaders listening to us that they think that, okay, I get it. I need to learn this. This is going to be important. Even if I don't have the full-blown fear of becoming obsolete, and I think that this is going to help me and my team, it's going to take time, and it's a messy process. And it's a very different leadership mindset. How can we, this is the $10 million question. How can we, how can we really help leaders build that mindset and also create systems that allows for these two different functions, the function of change and learning and reinvention. You mentioned reinvention to the delivery of results, performance, fast, deliveries. How can we differentiate these?
This is, as you said, a $10 million question. And I have been thinking a lot about it. And honestly, I want to add something by saying that it's even harder now, because with the promises of AI, everybody is expecting you to not only use AI, learn how to use it, but also because AI is now there, you're expected to move even faster.
To be more efficient.
And a lot of us are just sort of hearing it from everybody else, and we're thinking, okay, if everybody else is fast, then we should be fast. But then the other challenge I would say is that we have always known that we can achieve things together by collaboration, by being, team building,
dynamics,
great teams. And suddenly now we're talking about, oh, I can just manage a bunch of AI agents and then I can get things done. I don't need you. I don't need anybody else. So AI not only is becoming this new tool, but it's also adding to the
Yes.
challenges. And I think we all have to collectively challenge these assumptions that is fast always good? In some situations, yes. And I've done it myself. Like, for example, now when I talk to some of my clients, sometimes instead of creating, like taking the time, spending lots of time building this deck of the slides to convey a message, I can actually just quickly vibe code and create something and show it to them. And that message would be communicated much
Yes.
easier, much faster. It's faster for me. But I still have to put the work in. I still have to think
And you still
about.
need your
So everything
judgment.
is the
You still
same.
need like your expertise.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's, I just want to say that. And now what my solution is, I think, again, we should challenge every assumption, every question, again, but keep an open mind. So don't just dismiss everything that's being said about AI. It's not like everything is a hype, but we have to build that muscle of being able to
Wow.
judge for ourselves. And the next thing is, and this is what I am doing to help this process, is I actually realized that this is a big gap. And I thought, what can someone like me do? And at my advisory, this is what I am focusing on. I am actually partnering with leaders and helping them navigate AI in their own business, whether they're technical people or non-technical people. It's like sometimes I become their thinking
Yes.
partner. And oftentimes it's not that I know more, but they are domain experts, but I know about AI and technology. But then the other thing is that they have to deal with their day-to-day challenges. I
Yes.
don't. So I can look at their challenges and their company and their vision from outside, and oftentimes that actually helps. So this is something I've been doing for the past 4 or 5 months, and I'm hoping this is one of the things that is going to help some of the
Yes.
leaders who have these kind of challenges. And again, there are going to be people like
For
me
sure.
who can
Definitely.
support leaders in
Yes,
their journey.
definitely. And you're coming back to the idea of collaboration and team dynamics. And this is where I come in with the expertise with being a facilitator, and I see that this is a scary part. Like before AI, people already had a hard time collaborating, contributing,
Yeah.
speaking up in meetings, giving like feedback or analyze the work of someone else. Now we have to do all of this not only with each other as humans, but with like also AI agents. And this
Yeah.
is like the challenge that when I talk to young leaders, the majority of time they're talking about, okay, but how can I invite people to embrace AI? How can I change the narrative around it? How can I, create an environment where people can talk about it, can discuss it? We're talking about women already, their voices are being somehow compromised in the workplace. Is it going to be the reality?
Yes.
Then we're creating AI biases. You're the expert in this, so you know this more than me. So, what are some of the practices you think that as a leader, our younger leaders, or in general, like our community, can be helpful for them to somehow create an environment where conversations as such can happen?
Yeah.
Another $10
Um,
million question.
I can, I know, but these are great questions. I mean, we're really, I mean, again, like, I want to say something that leadership is not about having all the answers, but
Thank
is
you
asking the right
so
questions. So
much
it's
for
actually
that.
great. So
Thanks a
it's,
lot for saying that, because
yes,
this is
so
exactly how we see also facilitated leadership, that is all rooted in curiosity, asking questions, and create an environment for new ideas to emerge. So I'm so happy that you
yeah.
just have exactly that mindset.
Yeah, and you mentioned the biases, and again, I can speak. I mean, of course, I know biases are at all different levels, so it's not just about women versus men. But again, one of the things I can relate to is sort of the biases that exist in technology, especially, and even in the business world at large, and in sort of mostly leadership positions between women and men. And I think a lot of it comes from the fact that as women, we tend to question ourselves way more. And we often, and honestly, sometimes we talk about these things as if these are bugs, but I think these are our features. So we have to
Yes.
see them, and we don't necessarily need to change them. Maybe the world needs to
Yes.
change itself.
Hmm.
So it's actually important that you question
Yes. So that you
yourself,
can find
right? I mean,
places.
not too
Yeah.
much, of course, you don't want to overdo it. But the other thing is, again, we see all of these things. I've heard a lot about women being more reluctant to even go and learn about these AI tools or use them because we're always afraid that what if I can't learn it? What if I can't use it? And again, this is like just use it. And the thing is, again, we often call ourselves we know something if we know it inside out and like 200%. Whereas oftentimes, I don't want to make any gross generalization, but oftentimes our male partners, if they know 10%, they know it well. I actually had this as one of the feedback that one of my managers gave me, male managers. He was one of the amazing mentors and managers I had. He actually told me that other people, like your peers who are all male, they make a decision when they know something 20%. You wait for to know 150% before making a decision. So that is not good. That is, I don't want to say that's a feature. It's good that you don't want to jump into a
Yeah,
conclusion
for
and
sure.
make a decision without having enough
Information. Yes.
time to think it through. But you don't also, if you wait too long, it's also
Hmm.
not good. So again, we have to be aware of these things. And just overcome it. There's no other solution. We just have to each act and have just the courage to
Yes.
just do
That
it.
agency.
Say it, even if it's long. I know that a lot of the times we're being doubted, we're being questioned because of that. It's not always easy to speak up. I've been in positions where after years of being in technology and leadership, you get questioned, but it's fine. You just have to get over
Yes.
it and just push through.
And I would love to add to this that once you learn that, that's why I feel that female leaderships will have a great chance of leading change in the years to come, because I think that because they've been through many of these like culture challenges, I think they have more
Yes.
awareness and more willingness to create an environment that it's a bit different and it's psychologically safe. With that, I actually, this is a great segue for the follow up question that I have from you is that what were some of the leadership traits that you learned from your managers, from the books, that with time you had to let go of? That you said that, what, this is not serving me or serving this time and this reality. Because I think that's where, I
Yeah.
really want to make sure that we talk about the unlearning pieces, because I think that the identity
Yes.
crisis is exactly where we're sticking to the old mindset that is not serving us anymore. So I would love to hear from that from you.
Yeah. I think for me, it's actually an interesting trajectory because I think earlier I've been fortunate to have had great managers and great mentors. All of them were male, but they just gave me the space to grow. And in fact, they gave me this kind of feedback that I mentioned, and they questioned some of these things. They wanted me to grow even further. And because I've been in this environment where oxygen was abundant, I wasn't even realizing it. I'm sure I've learned a lot of that, but I didn't even realize it. I had some assumptions that I actually absolutely had to let go. And I was forced to let them go when I was put in a position where I had none of those support. And then I realized, oh my God, like I really have to let them go, because when the environment is great, even if you have some of those traits, it doesn't matter as much because the
It's quite
environment
forgiving and it's, yeah.
helps you grow and forgiving, and it doesn't really
That's a
like
very
sort
good
of
point.
use that as, and then I realized, okay, what are some of the things that are not letting me function in this environment where it's a little bit less supportive? And I think one of the things was what I mentioned, that I actually had this assumption deep down that as a leader, you have to have all the answers.
My goodness, you're not the only one, Afsaneh. Like,
I
I
know, but
really
it's like
do.
you really don't realize it until something shows that to you. So that was one thing. And the other thing, which again I had it a lot, and I was given this feedback. Again, I just didn't take it that seriously, that you just let your work speak for itself. No, your work doesn't speak, you do. If you don't speak, others
For your
speak,
work.
right? And they don't speak about your work, they speak about
Yes,
their
it's
own
so
work.
true.
The other thing that I want to mention is that being humble means that you should always let others go first. Not necessarily. Being humble is being open to learning, challenging your assumptions, listening to others, but you have to realize that you have the right to be in the room as much as everyone else.
Wow. These are powerful ones.
So I would say
Yeah.
these three,
And
yeah.
how did these shift your leadership identity, your identity as a leader? Like, especially the first one, because I think that, because now we're going through a lot of change, like this is the anxiety and overwhelm that I hear a lot from leaders, especially from the ones who are expert in their fields, are a bit more senior, that I have to have all the answers. Like that's just given. It said, but
Yeah.
no one has the answer, dear. Like no one's sitting at the table in organization and says, no one has the answer. How did this help you, shift that identity as a leader?
Yeah, and that's a tough one, if I want to be fair, because we realize this after years of experience, or after your experience and also working with a lot of leaders. You see that, but you're again challenged, even though you realize that when you are working with the younger generation. Because sometimes the really young and inexperienced generation also expect their leaders to know everything. And when they don't, then they question their judgment.
Got it.
So again, it's about staying confident and focusing on what are making you the leader. And it's about your experience and your judgment, your ability to judge, your ability to ask the right questions. So even if you don't know the answer, say it with confidence, I don't know. We can figure it out together. So it's again about not going back there and doubting it because somebody is again like doubting it. But again, like shifting your focus on what is it that makes you a good leader or a leader.
So you really
trusting
So you basically you build your foundation as a leader. You know what you can leverage, like you know what differentiates you, and that will give you the confidence to sit in a room and say that, what, I don't know this answer, but let's do it together. Because, it's interesting, like what we use as in leadership is like facilitative leadership. And this is exactly one of the approaches. And this is, to your point, this is exactly one of the challenges that leaders come back to us and say that, but I need to show authority. I need to, this is the challenge that, okay, then if I sit in a meeting and say, I don't know, then how am I different from other people? So I love what you shared, that you're really clear in what you're able to do and why you're a leader and how you're differentiating yourself. And you're really clear on what you can do and what you cannot do. And, we even tell people that if you're a leader that can share that, build that psychological safety, allow people to contribute and really bring these new ideas, that's already a great trait and characteristic.
Yes. But you're right to say that this is becoming a more of an issue these days. I was actually at a conversation last week when one of the university professors who has been one of the sort of amazing like instructors and lecturers at the University of Toronto. He was giving a talk about education in general and how AI is creating issues with education. And one of the things he was mentioning, he was sort of making a joke of it, but it was real that, I always thought I was the smartest person in the room, but that's not true anymore. So this is becoming a challenge. And again, it's not about like him doubting it himself. It's about, as you said, like that person, the leader, having the confidence to be in that role. But also, if you're not trusted with that role, then you cannot really do what you're supposed to be doing as a leader.
It is
because you have to also have the trust of the others.
You're totally right. I've never seen it in that way, but it is extremely key to build that trust. I don't use the word authority or power, but to establish that.
Yes, trust.
And then, like, within that, have that openness to take risks, to share what you know and what you don't know. This is actually a great segue to our like final question, which is around like, we're talking about the future of work. And, like it's interesting, the professor that you shared, that there's so many people that have spent decades learning and learning and learning and being qualified for things that some of it might be automated or be done by machines.
Yeah.
What do you think would be some of the characteristics of a future ready leader, or a leader that would be able to continue working and stay relevant in the future?
Yeah, yeah. I want to say staying curious. That's really key. Focusing on this and your muscle of being a good decision maker and having really good judgment. Because again, like all of your experience as a leader is not about the knowledge that you have accumulated, and it's not about authority, right? Having over people that maybe have less knowledge, because now sort of everybody can have access to information and knowledge. But really, if what are these years of working in that field have given you in terms of being able to have great judgment? So those are going to be key. And the other things I'm seeing these days is that, again, so the management layers are changing. And maybe in the past we also didn't need as many layers, but it was still working because we had managers and then managers of managers and then managers of managers. But nowadays it's becoming even less necessary, so it's more obvious to sort of every organization. And I think true leaders will be ones who can fluidly move between being visionaries and seeing the big picture, having good judgment, making decisions, all of those things, but at the same time is staying grounded with the real work. So you can't really just be there and just tell others what to do. You really have to be able to move between the two.
Yes, be connected to the reality.
Yes. Be on the ground. It's becoming even more important nowadays.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting because, one of the, you mentioned judgment. One of the things that we hear a lot about a future ready leadership is around sense making. We say that because it's all around connecting the dots, especially when we're going through change, is around connecting the dots, like bringing all these ideas and make sense out of them. And this is exactly what you say, like that judgment that is not just on the expertise, on the technical expertise, but your ability to actually like doing that. And again, I don't want to give too much credit to us as facilitators, but again, this is also the role of a facilitator, that it's exactly like bring that judgment and do that sense-making process properly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's about connecting the dots, right?
Especially now. Wow. Like, Afsaneh, this was an amazing conversation. I would like to see if you have any final words for our young leaders who are on the ground. I have to say that, what I see from them, they have a desire to lead differently. They are a different generation. They are really aware of the systems that are broken. They are being challenged from their teams, from bottom, from the top, with unrealistic expectations, and they are in the identity crisis. I would say, like, what would you tell them? Like, what would be your final words to these people?
Yeah. I think it's about staying curious and engaged, staying hungry for knowledge, not for information, and just keep talking to people and keep talking to people who have a few years more expertise than you are, and stay open. Stay open. I think it's extremely important for all of us to stay open-minded. And I want to cite here a verse that comes to my mind a lot these days, which the translation is "Seek not water, but thirst." It's about not necessarily look for the answers, but just have more
Yes.
questions. Surround yourself with the right
Hmm.
people, be in the right environment. It's extremely important. Um, I guess one of the things, these are all advices that people have given me that I use on a daily basis. That's why I'm sort of saying
Sure,
them.
please.
And one of the most important things is just for all of us to follow our energy and not ego. I think I heard it in a podcast or somewhere, and I loved it because we all do that. Like
Yes.
I do it. Like a lot of the times we follow our ego without knowing it. To realize it, follow your energy. And oftentimes they're not necessarily moving in the same direction. And eventually, I want to end with this: stay humble and stay human.
Yes. Oh my goodness, Afsaneh, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We've already shared your LinkedIn profile. I'm going to share it with other, like, leaders if they want to talk to you, if they want to reach out to you. To all the viewers
Thank you.
who joined us live, thank you so much. And have a great day. We're going to be back next Thursday with another episode. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It was a great conversation. And thanks everybody for joining.